about anything else.
We don't want to know.
We're dedicated, yes,
To our favorite shows.
Oh, my circuits!
Everybody loves Hippo
Scary Dog!
Dancing at Blurnsville.
Futurama.
Good evening. You are listening to a Radulich Broadcasting premier podcast, TV Party Tonight. I'm your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich, and winter is coming. Tonight, our favorite show is a special episode of Dynamite. They've done a few of these now, especially with the COVID and everything, that instead of doing monthly pay-per-views, they do, every few weeks, they do specially branded Dynamite episodes. They did the whatever show, Bash of the Beach, earlier in the year, which part of that featured the Jericho's. They did Fighter Fest, that was over 2 weeks. They did Fight for the Fallen. And now, tonight, we are discussing their latest one, which aired December 2nd, named after the tagline from the hit HBO series filled with stabbings and boobs, Game of Thrones, AEW, Winter is Coming. Featuring the AEW World Championship title match between Jon Moxley and the best bout machine, the Cleaner, Jim Cornette's favorite wrestler, Twinkle Toes McFingerbang, Kenny Omega. But I am not alone. I am joined by AEW superfan, Mr. Chris Bailey. How do you do, sir?
I am doing great. And, man, when you said this was our favorite show, a lot of times, I have to cross my eyes and cross my toes when you say that. But you know what? Last week, that actually was my favorite show. So I'm going to agree with you here. This one got the water cooler talk going again. And AEW hit one out of the park here with this thing.
Yeah, they did a really good job. And they have definitely, it takes a lot to really buzz the wrestling world. I mean, stuff happens, and because you have to have content. Content is the lifeblood of American culture these days. People will talk about it, but I mean, it takes a lot to really, put the wrestling world on its ear and surprise even the most cynical amongst us, and I am your king, the King Cynical. And even I, after this one, was like, wow, didn't see any of that coming. I am legitimately surprised and excited about what's going to happen next. So we'll break it down and we'll talk about it. Just a little off the beaten path there. Did you actually watch Game of Thrones when it was on?
I did. I haven't seen the last season, which I heard is outrageously bad. But I watched a little bit of it. I'm not a super fan, but yeah, I watched some of it.
Okay, so you knew where they got Winter is Coming from.
Oh God, yes, I understood the reference 100%.
Okay, cool.
But
right.
We did not get any Ice Kings or any dragons or boobs.
Considering the way this ended, I was expecting Britt Baker to have to do a naked walk of shame and for the Young Bucks to be riding in on a dragon.
I know, but I did miss the boobs, I will tell you that.
Who doesn't miss boobs? All right. We began this tale with a battle royal for the AEW Dynamite Diamond Ring. The last two competitors in the ring would be declared the winner of the battle royal, and then they would face each other in this week's episode of Dynamite for the ring. MJF won the ring the last time, and he's used it sometimes to his advantage and sometimes to his disadvantage, depending on the situation. The battle royal ended with MJF and Orange Cassidy being the final two victors, and the last eliminated was the Wardlow. The Wardlow says he's not an entertainer, he's a wrestler, so that's why he won't go to WWE. Yeah. I think the Wardlow needs to calm the fuck down. But what did you think about the Battle Royal?
That's the reason.
Well, I got none of that. What happened?
I said I don't think that's the reason why he's not in WWE right now.
No, as has been said about him, maybe the reason why is that he's greener than goose shit. But nonetheless, what did you think of the Battle Royal?
The Battle Royal, of course, it was a vehicle to get Orange Cassidy over, of course. But you know what? MJF and Wardlow played their roles very, very well. It looked like they had a dominant win going, and then all of a sudden, Orange Cassidy came in, and guess what? He didn't look like Jimmy McStuntbump. He actually looked like an actual high-caliber performer and got the win. So, a bit of a surprise here out of nowhere with Orange Cassidy going over, sets him up for next week with another match. But, yeah, you know what? The whole Battle Royal itself, they did a really good job of pairings and different things like that. So, I mean, overall storyline-wise, it was really, really well done.
I loved that they gave Miro a good run in the Battle Royal, and I got really into his run of eliminations, and then when he got eliminated, I was really bummed. Like, I thought, okay, MJF's already won this thing once. Orange Cassidy isn't going to get any more over than he already is. I mean, he's already, like, one of their top guys, so, like, neither one of them needs this win. I thought maybe, like, Wardlow might win it just to throw another monkey wrench into the Inner Circle and his relationship with MJF, move that storyline along. But I know, and I would love to see like a Wardlow Miro face off at some point. But yeah, I mean, like they haven't booked Miro really well, and they made him look really strong in this Battle Royal. I just wish they had stuck the landing. The rest of it, Jungle Boy had a really good run in there. Shawn Spears was doing the Jerry King Lawler thing of hanging out on the outside for a while, and then somehow or other he got eliminated. I don't really remember how. Battle Royals are fun, so it was a good way to kick off the show. Next, we had Chris Jericho with Jake Hager and Ortiz. Santana, I don't know, is in a immigrant camp somewhere. I don't know where. I know they're from Puerto Rico. I get it. I don't know where he is, but he hasn't been on TV for a while. Against the SCU's Frankie Kazarian, Chris Jericho is fat. Frankie Kazarian did what he could with Chris Jericho, and Chris Jericho got an unnecessary victory over Frankie Kazarian. I mean, Frankie Kazarian's been around for a long time, so it's not like Chris Jericho missed out on an opportunity to put another young guy over. But still, it was like, meh. I think, this was another match that furthered the storyline of the Inner Circle not getting along after a week. And that's all it was. What did you think of it?
Yeah, this was a storyline placeholder. So they had Sammy Guevara come out there and, look like he was ready to, cause Jericho to lose this match and all that type of stuff. Frankie Kazarian basically was just a placeholder. That could have been anybody else. And, well, you know what? Every single time, it's funny, because every time I see Frankie Kazarian on TV, I want to change the channel. And I actually enjoy his wrestling, but SCU is one of those things that are on this show that I just don't like. And Big Fat Jericho is he tends to keep my attention despite his rapidly growing waistline mark. I thought the match was okay. It was just a means to an end to get over that storyline where there's dissension in the ranks with the Inner Circle. So it basically just forwarded a storyline, but the players were interchangeable.
So Chris Jericho looked earlier in the year like he had actually lost some weight, and whatever weight he lost, he put right back on again because he looked super bloated tonight. I
don't know what it is, because you see, if you follow Chris Jericho on Twitter, you'll notice that he's always posting these pictures of himself with like his shirt open and like ripped abs. But all of a sudden, when he shows up live on AEW, the dude has got like a gut and like a 44-inch waist. I just don't know what's going on with this guy.
Yeah, it's pretty weird. The next match featured Layla Hirsch, who's a shooter from, I think they said Russia, who does not have a Wikipedia page, versus the returning Dr. Britt Baker. Is this Britt Baker's first match, and she received like 900 injuries over the summer? No, I guess
I feel that
she had the one match. She had the one match against Big Swole that Jim Cornette like said ruined the wrestling industry. That's all I remember.
Yeah, I did. I'm not a fan of the that Big Swole match. That was one of the biggest embarrassments that I've ever seen on TV, to be quite honest with you. But she hasn't had very many matches. If this is her second match, I'd say that's what it is. But I know a lot of people crapped on this match. I mean, Layla Hirsch, she's a very, very small, almost little person, midget-like type thing. But I tell you, one great thing about her is that her style is unique, and you get to see some sort of a different vibe when it came to the wrestling. So she actually had a really different match with Britt Baker, and I really, really enjoyed it, to be quite honest with you. some of her like suplexes and different things, and just the way she utilizes her short base. I was entertained. I wanted to see more of this girl. But anyway, Britt Baker gets the win in a decent match. And then at the end, of course, Miss NWA herself, Thunder Rosa, comes running to the ring, and she cashes in a receipt for Britt Baker, giving her a crack in the teeth just last week. So I was okay with this match. It was much better than Jericho Kazarian, put it that way.
You don't see too many girls who are shooters, like the Timothy Thatcher, Kurt Angle types. Those who can really wrestle. Chad Gable being another one. You don't see too many girls like that. So, this was different for a women's match because one of them was a shooter, and it forced Britt Baker to actually do some mat wrestling, which, again, she's not known for either. Britt Baker needed a big win on TV. I'm not sure if getting it off of Layla Hirsch was the best way to do it. Like, maybe somebody who already has a name that can afford a loss in AEW might have been a better way to do it. But, it got this Layla Hirsch gal on TV, and here's what I'll give AEW that I think they do better than NXT and definitely the main brands on Raw and SmackDown. They're like, Cody went through that phase of giving a lot of indie guys like Warhorse and shit a chance on TV. Like, they're willing to put new faces on TV just to, throw shit at the wall to see if it sticks. So on the one hand, it was like, questionable booking to get Britt Baker back into the main title picture. On the other hand, I've never seen Layla Hirsch before, and I like watching her perform. So, we'll see. When so much of wrestling is the same, it's nice to see something that stands out, and this was at least memorable for me. Like on the other hand, had it been one of the other main women wrestlers, had it been like a Big Swole or a bit, the one who's the alien or something like that, I would have been, I'd have been like, it was a women's match. They didn't kill each other. Terrific.
No, I got to say, AEW, they literally go for diversity. So you get to see every walk of life, every body type. And, Layla Hirsch, I'm definitely interested in seeing more of this girl. I think there's something in the diverse body type. And, you don't have your calendar girl models here on AEW. You've got a diverse cross-section. You've got some of the TNA, but you also got the tough as nails, brass tacks type women as well. And then you got the power lifter, athletic people. So, I'm all in with what they're doing here. So good on AEW here.
All right. And I know you've been dying to talk about this match, especially the aftermath. Your TNT champion, Darby Allin, teamed up with Cody Rhodes to defeat Team Taz, the combination of Ricky Starks and the newly turned heel Powerhouse Hobbs. Last week,
Powerhouse Hobbs.
Last week, Cody Rhodes and Taz came out. He did a really stupid promo. Taz gives good promos. If you gave him a cookbook, he could read from the cookbook and make you interested. But the stuff they're giving him to talk about, he cried that his belt isn't considered a sanctioned belt. Go into boxing then. They have tons of sanctioned belts there. I'm sure they'll take yours. It'll be the WBA or the WBC orange copper fuck the world championship. That's fine. But apparently TNT and AEW have higher standards than the WBA and the WBC. So, and boxing fans listening to this podcast are like, "Fuck you, Radulich." Or not, who knows? But anyway, Taz came out and whined that it's not a sanctioned belt, that's competitive, except that if they wanted it competitive, if you'll remember correctly, back in the late 90s, early 2000s, when they gave Foley the hardcore title, it wasn't a sanctioned belt either. Foley just walked out and was it was kind of a I think it was given to him when they were, this was right before Survivor Series Deadly Games, when he was in the corporation. And they kind of gave it to him as a Lifetime Achievement Award. It wasn't really meant to be a sanctioned belt. And then, then he had the feud with The Rock and everything, and the corporation turned on him. And he started defending the belt like it was real, and then it became a real thing, if you'll remember.
Which which is exactly what the FTW belt is as well. So Taz was being jerked around in ECW when it came to getting world title shots. So he literally created the F the world, fuck the world title, and defended and made his own belt. So, that's exactly what this should have been. However, they downplayed it. They gave it to Brian Cage first, but they didn't let him do anything with it. So he was crowned their champion. And did they just take the belt off him? Is just Taz just walking around with it? Because they had crowned Brian Cage as the After World Champion. So
right, and
what's
that's
the spin here?
And that's what I'm saying. Like, why don't you just let Brian Cage, anyone that beats me can take this belt, and then use Taz's line, or have Taz just say it, like, beat me if you can, what is it? Beat me if you can, survive if I let you. Something along those lines. Yeah, like, just come out there and fucking challenge people. Like, I dare you to take this belt off my chiseled body. And
exactly. But what happened here with this belt? They didn't do a great job of introducing the title. So it just sort of came out of nowhere, and then all of a sudden Brian Cage, minus a real storyline to introduce the belt, came out. So what they're doing here is actually launching a storyline where Cody Rhodes won't allow anything to do with the belt, and Taz attacks him. So now there's some stakes on the line, and that's what this entire tag team match is setting up here. So still, I don't know where that fits with Brian Cage and his status as FTW champion. But anyway, I guess that'll be a plot line filled in soon. Yeah.
So where we are is Cody Rhodes is now feuding with Team Taz, and they've been trying to and Team Taz has been trying to murder Darby Allin since 1812. It's been fine. So they had the match. It was a good match. They ended up, Darby Allin and Cody Rhodes ended up winning the match, but then Ricky Starks and Powerhouse Hobbs gave him a beatdown after the fact. And I will, look, I know you take your pants off. You have your right hand right on your crotch. Go for it, man. Tell me who showed up.
All right, so the match ended when Darby Allin pinned Ricky Starks with the coffin drop. So then they had a post-match brawl. Now, the lights go out, the snow falls, and out walks motherfucking Sting. And man, that guy looked amazing. I don't know if I have fanboyed so much in my entire life. I was literally on Twitter with you, and I just went, holy fuck. And you knew exactly what I was talking about.
Were you a little Stinger? So did you follow, not Georgia, did you follow, the old Crockett Promotions and then World Championship Wrestling when you were a kid?
Brother, I was all about Crockett Promotions as a kid. I watched it. I had to wait till 2:30 in the morning to watch NWA, but it was Can't Miss TV on Saturday nights. And I loved Surfer Sting. I'm telling you right now, he'd come out, he'd shit the bed on a promo, he'd beat the crap out of the Four Horsemen, and I was all about the Stinger, man. And when he teamed up with Luger, winning the world title from Vader, I was a super little Stinger, man. I thought this guy was great. And for the first time since that treacherous WWE run, did Sting look motivated. He looked great. He looked in shape. I mean, the guy looked like finally they're going to do something right with me. And I think that AEW is actually going to do the right thing with Sting and actually give him a presence on screen and not put him, make him job out several times. I mean, what a ridiculous thing WWE did to this legend. But I got all the confidence in the world here, baby. Stinger's back.
So I didn't grow up watching WCW. The little bit that I saw of it, and I didn't know anything about Jim Crockett Promotions until I was much older, and it was long gone. The little I saw of Surfer Sting, you got to remember, I grew up with the Ultimate Warrior, and I was like, "Who's this Ultimate Warrior ripoff?" Little did I know.
My God!
Yeah, but WCW always seemed like a WWE knockoff, like one of those Netflix, Transmogrifier type movies, just
Titanic 2.
Yeah, exactly. But I'll tell you, I got into Sting and his feud with the NWO. I mean, they didn't stick the landing; they really botched it in the end with Hogan and Sting and Bret Hart. I'm not going to let you win. I'm not going to let this happen. I'm not going to let you win normal. Fucking idiots.
Meanwhile, he gets pinned cleanly in the match with a 3 count.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. Ugh, it was so bad. WCW, y'all could fuck up a wet dream, but I mean, in the beginning when they knocked Sting out, they thought the fake Sting was the real Sting, and they thought that Sting had joined the NWO, and he was like, fuck all y'all, and he came out at War Games, ran roughshod on everybody, and then left. I was like, dude, you're a badass. I'm all in with this. And then he started showing up in the Crow gear because it was the late 90s, and that's where we were in the culture. And then he started like hanging out in the rafters, and he would hit Jeff Jarrett over the head with the bat. And then eventually they figured out what to do with him, and he would just come in, on the rope and fuck up the NWO, for over a year. And then it ended with Starrcade, and that really should have been the end of the NWO. Like that, like maybe one more pay-per-view to sort of clean it up and break them apart. But they had told, with Sting as the world champion, beating Hogan, laying waste to the NWO, they told a great story, and it was like the high point of Sting's career of that era. And then WCW would go off a cliff, and he would reemerge in TNA. I didn't see a lot of Sting stuff in TNA. I mean, here and there, and I barely remember any of it. But, he was a big star there. He had a lot of matches like Kurt Angle and Jeff Jarrett and stuff. I'm not going to lie. His WrestleMania match against Triple H, I enjoyed. Like, when the NWO came down and then DX came down and it turned into like a big stupid schmoz, I laughed. I was howling. I was hooting. I was into it. Why they couldn't give Sting a win? I mean, I know why, but it's, typical WWE, not willing to admit that there might be something better out there. So it's like, okay, of course, Sting loses against Triple H. Of course he does. And then he gets in a match with Seth Rollins, and Seth Rollins injures him, like you do. And then the third thing, and there's a reason why I'm bringing all this up, the third thing was, like, he pitched a cinematic match against The Undertaker, and they were like, no, AJ Styles, not you. And it's like...
They had no intention of putting this guy over. There was literally no intention, and a cinematic match with Taker would have been the answer to cap this thing up. I mean,
we've only wanted it since the 90s.
Why give it to us now? Fuck it.
Right. So, so there's been articles out there that Sting's like pissed. Sting's this is sort of the Sting redemption run with AEW, which they're happy to give him because he felt like, his run with the WWE, he was mistreated and disrespected, and he was, and he went out like a chump. Which, by the way, I was at the last WrestleMania he was at. I guess it wasn't the one in Frisco. It had to have been Dallas, I think, because I remember getting on a plane.
Yeah, I think.
Go ahead.
No, I think it was the Dallas show you were talking about with the last Sting match. Yeah, WrestleMania for sure.
Because we actually saw him at the airport, and my wife was like, "Oh my God, that's Sting, that's Steve Borden." And I'm like, "Oh shit, it is." She's like, "You should go up and talk to him." I'm like, "No, he's had a rough weekend as it is."
You don't need my ass making it worse.
Yeah, he was just like, "Hey, don't you wish you hadn't signed with the WWE now?" Like, what was I going to say to him? Like, a tough break, buddy.
Well, I'll tell you what, AEW got it right, because when Sting came out, so the entire thing, the ring was cleared out. Sting walks inside the ring, and he starts walking around. Now, inside the ring, he first meets Arn Anderson, who he's got history with the Four Horsemen. So Anderson, Flair, they made life miserable for Sting for years and years and years in WCW. So he walks up, he gives Arn the once-over, and Arn knows exactly, and, fans with history knows exactly what went on between these two men. So I love that little touch. Then he walks over to Dustin Rhodes. Now, he didn't really have anything really bad to do with Dustin Rhodes because, Dustin at the time was a good guy. So, he just sort of patted him on the back and went on about his business. Now, his father, Dustin Rhodes, his father, of course, is Dusty Rhodes, which is also Cody Rhodes' father. So he goes over and he kneels down Now he's got the bat. He's just got the bat on the mat, and he's looking at the son of Dusty Rhodes, which is another thing, and he sort of gives him a pass. And then he literally makes Darby Allin. He goes over. Darby Allin gives him the stare. He looks at him from side to side, and man, I had chills on me. I was like, oh, man, this is amazing. And then he leaves the ring, man, and it was just like, wow, what just happened here? I was super thrilled with how they did this.
Yeah, it was. I was legitimately shocked because I hadn't heard anything about Sting making a comeback. AEW, man, you know, they talk about the Wednesday Night War and that, you know, Raw and SmackDown are not competitive with Dynamite, and I will tell you, this was a shot at the main roster. This is AEW going, we're done with NXT. We don't care. You can put anything against us on Wednesday nights. The war is with the main roster. We're coming for your fans.
Yep.
We're coming to make new fans. AEW, which has been at times a shit product over this past year, made a statement with Sting's return like, we're not playing games anymore. 2021, we turn a corner. Now, they got to stop getting in their own way with their booking, you know, and they got to make some changes internally. But I'll tell you, you know, you don't just sign Sting so that you can give Joey Janela a good win. You signed.
I will quit wrestling. I will not do podcasts. I will eat my own ass. That's how bad that is. Forgive me. That's just the way it is.
You know, it's one thing to sign, you know, all these indie guys or mid-level, you know, guys that have been on TV in different places, and you're like, oh, you know, like an Eddie Kingston or something along those lines, you know, Brian Cage. But when you sign Sting, when you're shelling out the big money, when you're shelling out Turner money to sign Sting to a long-term contract, you're making a statement. And I'm not, and I don't think I'm overselling it when I say they're looking directly at Vince McMahon and the rest, you know, and Triple H and going, we're coming for you. You can't ignore us anymore.
I can guarantee you, if Sting physically wrestles a match, he will win his first match in AEW. I can bet cash on it. Cody Rhodes will not screw this up.
I'll tell you, if 6 months from now people are looking at Sting's run in AEW going, wow, what a rehabilitation, what a run. They treated him, you know, with such respect, and we've had so much fun watching him, and it like brings other fans, like, because now the word's out, right? This is almost a week later. And the word's out that Sting is in AEW. Casual fans of like the Monday Night Wars might start watching AEW just to see Sting.
Oh my God, yes. My God, yes. I mean, even my wife who came down and she's watching the TV and she goes, "Oh, that's Sting." It was instantly recognizable, and she said, "Oh, he actually looks really good." And she kept going, and you're just like, you know, a casual fan who just, you know, sits in the background, instantly recognizable star on your screen. And the dude looked well, man. He looked good. He looked motivated. And those, you know, 10 fans that were in the audience were losing their mind, Mark.
But I think it signals,
including us on Twitter.
Yes. I think it signals to those that are out there, you know, who are trying to decide, should I sign with the WWE for like a Legends run, or should I try this AEW thing? This now gives AEW credibility. That's what the signing 100%. Sting does, and especially if they treat him well, which it sounds like they're going to. Like, that's the one thing I can say about AEW. I don't think I've complained too much about the way they use veteran wrestlers. I think they use them pretty well. I mean, I don't mean like veterans like Billy Gunn. You know, I mean like if people come in that deserve. Yeah, I think if people come in that deserve respect, I think they get it, and they're, you know, and nobody's clowned like that on their television. And I think Tony Khan recognizes that if you want to win the battle of hearts and minds in the wrestling industry, you can't treat people who the fans adore like crap, which is the exact opposite way the WWE operates, which is, oh, you spent X amount of years avoiding us, actively saying you don't want to sign with us, and now we've tricked you into signing with us? Great, we're going to shit all over you because we're petulant children.
Yeah, welcome to Jobville.
Yeah, exactly.
Lay those shoulders on the mat.
Yep.
Enjoy.
Bend over the chair and take it. All right.
Oh boy.
So that wraps up that segment. They did a couple of interviews here and there. This wasn't an edition of Dynamite. I think they did an interview with the Young Bucks. I wasn't listening. But then we got to our championship match. Jon Moxley, who beat Chris Jericho for the title. Prior to that, he had wrestled a death match against Kenny Omega and won that as well. So Jon Moxley was coming in strong here. But Kenny Omega said, hey, no garbage match. Just meet me in the center of the ring and let's have a wrestling match. Let's show people you're more than just a garbage wrestler. Kenny Omega, since the split up with his boyfriend, Adam Page, has refocused. He's reminded people he's the best bout machine. He's done this big elaborate entrance like he would do in Japan to show people I am a refocused Kenny Omega and I'm coming for that title that should rightfully be mine because I'm the best in the world. And Jon Moxley's like, nope, this is my title and I'll die before I let anyone take it. And they had a match, and it broke, and they went a while before. It was almost 30 minutes. They went a while before it started to break down, and they were going on the outside. But I thought they told an interesting story here. I thought Jon Moxley really tried to meet Kenny Omega where Kenny Omega said he wanted the match to be. But then Kenny Omega was the one going to the outside, being a garbage wrestler. And then they got back in the ring again, and there was a lot of false finishes, and Jon Moxley hanging in there. They went back to the outside. Kenny Omega took a hard spill into one of the heaters, and they thought they thought he was injured. That was what the story was, obviously. Jon Moxley put him back in the ring, but then guest commentator Don Callis from Impact Wrestling, and this is the second time they've had him on, ran down there to make sure his man Kenny Omega was okay, and that's where the plan was hatched. Kenny Omega got the microphone while the referee was arguing with Don Callis, and he hit Jon Moxley over the head. Now, Jon Moxley has kicked out of thumbtacks, hitting his head on wood, being beat with a chair, being put through tables. He has kicked out of everything. Being shot with a gun, boiled in oil, tarred and feathered. Jon Moxley kicks out. One microphone shot to the head from Twinkle Toes McFingerbang, and Jon Moxley was dead.
Now, he had just taken 4 V-triggers and a 1-winged angel and the microphone shot, and that was enough to make Kenny Omega the brand.
After previously kicking, this isn't. He didn't come back from retirement. He's been actively wrestling. He's a young man, and after kicking out of an atomic bomb going off, the Hulk cracking the earth, a meteor shower. Jon Moxley, after a few knees to the face, which UFC fighters can sometimes shake off and keep fighting, took a microphone to the head, and Kenny Omega got the victory. 1, 2, 3. I'm not saying this stretches credulity, but come on.
All right. So just recently, I've taken a microphone to the head on my independent wrestling show, and I can tell you that it hurts, okay? So Kenny Omega really, really laid it in on Jon Moxley, and yeah, that's going to take a guy out, Mark. You don't even know. You don't even know, okay?
Yeah. I watch enough No Holds Barred with, like, Schlack and what's his face, Ocean and Alex Ocean and all these other deathmatch wrestlers, and these guys are kicking out of fucking light bulbs to the head. They're being kicked. They're kicking out of barbed wire bats. But sure, microphone to the head beats all. Got it.
I know it was sort of anticlimactic, but I think they were trying to pair that with 4 finishing moves and 1-wing angel, which they said that nobody in AEW has kicked out. Well, I think you should go back and watch the Kenny Omega matches from this year, because everybody has kicked out of that damn move. So don't be playing that Hogan Andre shit with me on this one. Sorry. Here's
my quick thing about kickouts of finishers. last night, as we're recording this, last night was NXT War Games, and we'll talk about it tomorrow on a separate. There'll be another show where we talk about NXT War Games, and Christian will join us. But not to give anything away here, spoilers if you haven't seen it. Pat McAfee took a Canadian Destroyer at the end of the match, like after he'd already been beaten up pretty good from Adam Cole, baby, and he kicked out of it, and Adam Cole was like, brr? Like, first of all, who hasn't kicked out of the Canadian Destroyer at this point?
Exactly.
And I think that's my problem is, like, sometimes your finisher finishes the guy, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you can hit him with 42 chairs, and that finally puts him down. Sometimes you hit him with 42 chairs, and he still kicks out, and you have to figure something else out. Maybe I'm just too concrete, but I feel like I was enjoying the match up until the finish, and I understand the finish was to sell a story that's developing, which we'll talk about in a second. But after you've done all the things to Jon Moxley, hitting him in the head with a microphone seems a little, and then that finishes him after being mean in the face a few times. Like I said, it stretches credulity, and it takes me out of the match, and it reminds me that wrestling is stupid. So,
well, do you remember? Have you watched like early '80s WWF and like New Generation stuff? Are we familiar with that?
Oh yeah, I watched wrestling pretty much from like '85 until I think I took a break in the early 2000s, like after the war was over. I think like around the time Brock Lesnar quit is when I quit watching wrestling for a while.
So there was a point that went from that stretch between the late 80s and the 90s where nobody did submission moves or nobody physically won with a submission move, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Then all of a sudden it transitioned into like the Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels era, and all of a sudden people were losing to sharpshooters. People were losing to figure fours. So what they had to do, they had to basically go reset. Everybody wasn't losing to the leg drop or the Randy Savage flying elbow. Now, all of a sudden, people were getting actually tapped out. You know what I mean? It was just a change in mindset in regards to finishes. And I think what needs to happen here now, I think wrestling companies need to understand that there is money in a finish actually finishing people. So when you see a finisher, moving forward, it should finish people unless you've got a creative way to get out of it. Don't have people kicking out of finishes. It actually damages the brand and damages the emotion in the match. So
right.
I agree with you. It just felt silly to have Jon Moxley over the years, you know what I mean, falling off roofs, getting blown up, scud missile up the ass, and still surviving. Instead, he gets a mic shot to the head, and you're like, okay, that's definitely not going to beat him. And it does. So, you really got to reestablish the finishing move in order to create that emotion again. In 2021, I'm banking on it. Is the year of the finisher coming back. I'm crossing my fingers.
Well, I understand that it's different bookers and it's different writers and it's different shows and it's different companies. So the level of consistency that I'm like demanding is never going to happen. But let's remember on one show, a girl beats another girl with a belly-to-belly suplex and like fucking finishes them. There's a dude jumping in the air and punching people, and that's finishing everybody. And in this one, and Jon Moxley is, like I said, been thrown off like fucking roofs and shit and kicks out of it. So, like, Canadian Destroyers don't finish people, belly-to-belly suplexes and punches do. I just, like, it's a good thing there's other things entertaining in wrestling because, like, it's certainly not the finishes.
No. But the finish here was that you had basically Impact Wrestling pulling a fast one. Like, Kenny Omega leaves with Don Callis, and he says, tune in Tuesday on Impact to see what happens next. So now all of a sudden, not only did we have an early NWA invasion earlier in the years, you had all these, this talent from NWA coming over, your Thunder Rosas and your different people, Ricky Starks and all these people. But now you've got crossover with the few folks that are left at Impact. And I think when you think about WWE's involvement with like Evolved and different brands like that, I actually think there's more credibility in using the NWA and Impact because they're established brands. People know, for the most part, these talent. If you're, I'm just waiting for someone to ring in our Ring of Honor, you know what I mean? And I think AEW definitely is on the right course. And you know what? I will be tuning in Tuesday to see what the heck is going on.
Yeah.
Kenny Omega coming on Impact Wrestling with the AEW title. I'm all in, baby.
I haven't watched Impact since they were on Spike TV. But I will be DVRing.
Well, you're in for a Canadian landslide, brother.
I mean, I've somewhat followed what was, especially when Tessa Blanchard was there. I was kind of following the product a little bit, at least reading reports and whatnot, but I hadn't really watched it. I think I tried when they first made the jump over to Access TV. I tried to catch up on it, and I just didn't have the time or the interest, because they were like showing like catch-up episodes, and I was like, yeah, so I just gave up after a while. But my DVR is set for Tuesday. I will be watching Impact to see what Kenny Omega has to say. And, you know, for years, the fans demanded that the WWE and World Championship Wrestling find some way to do a joint pay-per-view. And it was like, nope, we're not even going to acknowledge them over there. It wasn't until Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage got signed that they even, and then they only would acknowledge Randy Savage and Hulk Hogan in their stupid Huckster and Nacho Man skits. And then one other time they acknowledged it with DX when they were literally like competing across the street from one another in Virginia, and the DX did the stupid thing with the tank. And then WCW had an opportunity to do something really earth-shattering, and they were like, just shut the door. Pretend we're not here. There's nobody home! Which, by the way, have you ever heard Eric Bischoff on his asshole podcast talk about that?
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, absolutely.
It was like, oh, well, the show. Well, they came when the show was on, and I was in the ring at the time, and and while I don't like Conrad, and I think he's a douchebag, even called him out on that. He was like, it was fucking daytime, Eric.
I like the way that Eric Bischoff, he seems to play that whole angle differently depending on what he's talking about. So, he likes to say sometimes, yeah, why don't we just let him on in? Let's bring him to our ring and see how everything works out. And our guys would have killed him. You know what I mean? I think if he knew there was money to be made and he wouldn't get sued, those guys would have been in his ring and he would have made money off it, no problem. But
yeah, the one thing I believe, Eric, is that they didn't want to do too much antagonist stuff against the WWE. They were already mired in lawsuits. Like, this was just going to make...
Exactly.
Like, once you're already in court with somebody, you don't want to make it worse. I've learned from personal experience. So...
And I bet you dollars to donuts that he actually had zero idea that this even happened and it came to him secondhand. I bet you that was the real story.
Like Conrad pointed out, it was during the day. He might not have even been at the arena yet.
You got it. That's exactly my thought on it as well. Then he gets there and he goes, let's make some money here. They don't want to come in our ring. Come on, yeah. Vince, challenge me on a pay-per-view. Ugh.
Yeah, that was... I always complain about how petulant Vince McMahon is, but that was definitely a tantrum moment. Anyway, back to AEW. So yeah, I enjoyed up until the very end, and I think, like, if I don't think about it, I'm fine with the ending because of what happened. Like had he just hit him with the microphone, gotten the title, and and then walked back, and and Cody Rhodes and the Young Bucks like blew him and poured champagne all over themselves, like that'd have been one thing. I'd have been like, meh. But Adam Page knocks on the door. Can I come in? No, like that sort of thing. But they did the thing with Don Callis, and he ran away like a thief in the night. And then they're like, "See us on Impact," and then it was over. And I'm like, "Oh, well, there's so much more now that I'm interested in, and I have questions about that. I don't really care that was a fuck ending. That was kind of stupid." And the rest of the match was great. I really enjoyed Kenny Omega versus Jon Moxley. Like, I know Jon Moxley has now gotten this reputation for being a garbage wrestler, but I actually think, like, when he wrestles, he's really good. Like, he can put on a good competitive wrestling match.
Yeah, he really held his own against Omega here, and I think they actually had really, really strong chemistry. So I think this entire show, man, just to put a bow on it, I mean, this main event really capped off what was unbelievable stellar show for free TV. Like, we're being super served here in 2020. We don't even know how spoiled we are. We grew up in a generation where the fucking Beverly Brothers took on, God knows who. You know what I mean?
Dude, when I was You know, when I was a kid, they gave a lot of time on Saturday night's main event to the fucking Hillbilly family. You know, Uncle Elmer, Hillbilly Jim. They married. Uncle Elmer got married on Saturday night's main event. Do you remember that?
I did. Holy cow! Piper came out, broke up the wedding. I loved it. But I mean, I grew up in the era where Iron Mike Sharp took on, Ricky Ataki on WWF Superstars of Wrestling. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I'm not used to seeing like my brand name Hulk Hogan type wrestlers free on my TV. I'm still not used to it, and I should be by this time because, we pretty well drained the bathtub when it comes to this, but I'm still loving it. I thought this show was brilliant. Sting came back, World Championship, the World Heavyweight title changed hands. Man, wicked. Thank you, AEW, is all I got to say.
Yep, this special edition of Dynamite, much like the NXT special edition where they did Halloween Havoc, I guess this is going to be a thing now because in January, and we can plug this now, they announced last night on NXT War Games that in addition to doing quarterly takeovers or monthly takeovers, I don't know how they're going to... It was, for a while there, they were going kind of monthly, just about between WWE pay-per-views and then separate takeovers. But COVID, so everything's up in the air right now. We don't even know when the next takeover is going to be because we don't know when the Royal Rumble is going to be, let alone when the next WrestleMania is going to be. Allegedly, the Royal Rumble is going to be January 31st, but they're holding off on announcing a date because they don't know if they can have fans, and they won't know if they can have fans until January 7th, is what I've heard. In the meantime,
Mark, can you imagine the Royal Rumble with just video monitors for the fans? I mean, literally, you're going to bring back someone like a big returning star. Their music is going to hit, and you're going to have people holding up a Chris Benoit sign and someone cutting each other's head off on a video screen in the background. Like, what in the hell? You can't do that to the Royal Rumble. We need fans.
Yep. I'll tell you, if they allow fans at the Trop, I'm going. It's only like a 45-minute drive from where I live. So anyway,
COVID. He's not afraid. Mark Radulich is not afraid of that COVID.
I live in Florida where the COVID runs free. Get a little COVID, you blow your nose, you wipe it off. That's how it works. Anyway, they did announce that the next NXT special was going to be New Year's Evil. Meanwhile, over on AEW, they're going to do Beach Bash sometime in January, which is going to be the next Dynamite special. So we're not going to do we don't do the weekly wrap-ups. I don't have the time. Chris doesn't have the time. But we are going to continue to do these special shows. So we'll do a show for New Year's Evil. We'll do a show for Beach Bash. And hopefully they can keep up the same level of entertainment and competition. So that'll be fun. In the meantime, tomorrow we will record our review of NXT War Game. And we'll have Christian on to do that. War Games! That's what press. All right. Also, this week we've got myself and Jesse Starcher will review Clutch, the Weathermaker series, Volume 1. And last week, speaking of COVID, Andrew Graham and his wife got sick, so we weren't able to do The Crown, so we switched it with Animaniacs, which is now in the archives. So this week we'll be doing The Crown Season 4. We'll also do a source material for My Little Pony Transformers. It's going to be fantastic. Can't wait.
No!
Yes! Oh, my God. I've been looking so forward to this.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
All right, go ahead.
I don't know what to think. The world is...
Go ahead and do your plug, so let's get and we can get out of here.
Well, fans, I'd just like to make the stellar announcement that all, Radulich and Broadcasting shows are now going to be available on HBO Max, all in one drop. All of 2021 shows will be available on HBO Max.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe not.
We don't know when Mortal Kombat's coming out yet, because God forbid I get a solid release date on anything. But yes, everything you've heard tonight available on HBO Max. All your movies, all your music, everything's going to HBO Max.
Well done, sir. So listen, I've got a very, very busy week coming up. We got Superblog Team Up returning December 15th and 16th with a dual branded event this time, which is Superblog Team Up Red, Superblog Team Up Gold. And they're focusing on, number one, Creator, which talks about all the behind the scenes, lovable creators that make the medium that we love in comics. So that's Creator. Then, of course, we have What If, which does deep dives into some topics that you'd never dream of that are what ifs, including Captain Confederacy. I still don't understand that one, but we'll see. That's 15th and 16th of December. Superblog Team Up returns, and that's me.
All right, folks, thank you for joining us on TV Party Tonight when AEW Winter is Coming for Chris Bailey. I had to fit that in somewhere. I'm Mark Radulich. Be well, be safe, and behave.